All right, welcome to another episode of Deal Making with Dan Del Real. I'm your host, Dan Del Real, and today we have a guest in the studio, Arturo Gomez. Welcome to the show.
How's it going? I'm glad to be on the show. It's been a long time coming, and just glad to be here.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I know in the past we've done podcast episodes. It's been a little while since we've done them. Previously, the way that we've approached these shows is, we've talked about deals that are local and relevant to Merced, the people who are doing the deals, and then we've shared best practices and proven real estate strategies that come from doing those deals. This is a little bit different. It's something that we've talked about doing for a while, having a guest on the show. You're guest number one, so
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're guest number one. So I'm excited to have you here, and looking forward to a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. That's pretty cool being the first guest. Especially it's something that I've been wanting to do. So it's an honor to be on the the podcast.
For sure. And the feeling's mutual. Honored to have you here. Why don't we get started by tell me a little bit about who you are. You grew up here in Merced. Did you grow up somewhere else, or where did you come from?
No, I mean I was born and raised in Merced, California. That's all I know. I was born over there in the old hospital that used to be here in Merced.
Yeah.
I'm honestly not even quite sure what the name of it is. It's been so long that it's been gone. But
the old MCMC hospital.
Yes, that hospital. I was born and raised on Loughborough. Most of you guys might know Loughborough. It has a bad rep, but I mean, honestly, it was home to me. It was great. It was where I grew up. It was where I was able to learn and build a character for myself, I guess, in a sense. Product of my environment, and I want to do better for Merced and put on for it. So it's a little bit about me. I'm an up and coming real estate agent. I guess you could say that. I'm trying to learn the ropes through Dan over here, the man. But yeah.
And when you say Loughborough, like what part of Loughborough did you grow up on?
So I grew up in Lincoln Garden apartment. Yeah, so
is
over
that
there.
right off of R, or is that closer to, like, what's the cross street?
I'm honestly not even sure what the cross street is, but it's right in the middle of Loughborough, so kind of passing 7-Eleven. So you go down a little bit, and it's right next to the Meadows apartments, the bigger apartment complex. But I lived in the Lincoln Gardens area, and that's where I grew up, honestly. And it was nice. It was pleasant. It had a good childhood there. Being an apartment kid, you grow up around other apartment kids, so you guys are always outside playing basketball, playing team tag, whatever it is, hide and seek. So it was honestly never a dull moment. And it was great. It helped me improve my social skills, helped me, learn how to talk to people, just be a good person, I guess. Just be social with people.
Yeah, I think I was asking because when I was in high school, I used to live around that area.
Oh, that's right.
And I had a buddy, Ben, who lived on Meadows and Olive area.
Yeah.
Actually, I was talking to my cousin the other day. His name's Ian. And he was telling me about, now he's a police officer. And so he was telling me they got these new tasers, and he tased someone right across the street from Ben's house.
That's crazy.
And I immediately thought back to when I used to live there, but I used to live over on R in Buena Vista.
Yeah, those apartments right across the street from Rivera.
There. Yeah, so I'd always be walking back and forth. We'd be going to my friend Ben's house.
Yeah.
My friend Brandon lived on the next street over. I think that was San Ramon.
Yeah.
So super familiar with that area. And then all of my kids were born in MCMC at the old hospital.
Yeah.
So, my mind's going right back to both of those places. And so you grew up here in Merced, and then you graduated high school.
Yeah.
And then how did you end up in real estate? What got you here?
So I actually graduated high school in 2022. I am enrolled in a 4-year college, Stanislaus State. My whole family went there, so it was kind of almost like a family, following my family's footsteps. Going to college and whatnot.
And what are you studying at Stanislaus?
Economics, yeah. So it's one of my favorite subjects that I always had in school. Actually, shout out to one of my teachers, Mr. Kane. I don't know why he really inspired me to go into economics. It's very weird. I actually genuinely don't know why, but you know, it is something that interests me. You know, the way that money works in our economy. You know, the way that policies are implemented to affect the way that money flows in our economy, and just the overall, you know, subject matter is just interesting, and it also correlates to real estate pretty well as well, because you know, obviously there's certain tax policies and things of that nature that affect real estate, and so you know, it was just something that, in my mind, I figured, you know, it's a good thing to learn and be knowledgeable about for, you know, any future endeavors that you may take upon yourself, you know. So it was a pretty good thing. But yeah, so I'm in my actually senior year of college, so I actually only got two more semesters till I graduate, and you know, I'm very excited about that. Being a first generation graduate in my family, it's a big deal. You know, not many of my family members were able to go to college, but you know, being able to be one of those first of my grandparents and my dad, it's honestly a big honor. You know, a lot of people say you don't need school or whatnot. I mean, I could agree to an extent, but honestly, it's good to always be overqualified, in my belief. Never underqualified, so you're always ready for any occasion that may happen. And yeah, and you know, and in real estate, I always took an interest in it because, you know, it's money. There's money in real estate, right? And there's always a way to help people in real estate as well, because people always have needs that need to be taken care of. And if you're an expert in that subject of matter, then you know, you could input your expertise towards people and help them, you know, achieve more than they could alone.
So it sounds like you went to school. There were some things in school that interested you about money or finances and real estate, and so that kind of got you interested in real estate. And then you're thinking about, well, you know, money's interesting to me because, and now I'm kind of speaking from my own experience. As I kind of, you know, moved out and became a man, I started to think about money and realize, well, I have to provide for myself.
Yeah.
And so, you know, what opportunities are out there, and it feels better to have money or more money than not having money or not having a lot.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what I'm hearing, and that got you interested in real estate, or did I miss anything there?
In a sense, yeah. So growing up, you know, I'm not gonna say, you know, there wasn't any money, but there was like a good amount. But you know, there could have always been a little bit more that could have been there, you know, and whatnot. Growing up with just my father, he was the sole provider for me, and so you know, I always looked at how hard he worked, and it always made me want to be, you know, better and work harder as well. So, you know, there was always that sense that, you know, I need to make money and I need to make it out and, you know, make a name for myself and, you know, make my own home, you know, have my own kids and, you know, be able to provide for them as well. So there was always that keen interest on that. And there's also the sense that, you know, the money could go a long way. You know, you could have generational money for your family as well. And, you know, I think that's something that real estate can achieve potentially. If you harness it right and, you know, you follow the steps that others have paved in the real estate industry. And I wouldn't say necessarily, it's actually kind of funny how I actually got interested in real estate. So Merced High School used to do these they used to do these job fairs, and where they would actually have people from different professions come out and kind of explain to the kids, like, hey, this is what we do, this is how you do it, this is how much money you can make doing it, and this is what the life can provide for you. So that was pretty much the gist. And I remember there was actually this guy, shout out to Soldavi. I'm sorry, I don't know his first name, or I don't know. I just remember Soldavi. It's so specific. And I remember just being in that lecture that he was giving us in that class, and he was basically saying how in his first year of real estate, he made about $1 million, and he worked super, super hard. And that just kind of, you know, started cranking the gears a little bit in my head, and I was kind of just like, wow, like, you know, there's really money to be made there. Along with also this YouTuber, Graham Stephan. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's a finance YouTuber. He's actually one of the YouTubers that I would watch growing up. So I was like 12, 13 watching this guy, and he actually started off as a real estate agent as well.
Was it about that same age when you heard from Soldavi?
Yeah, actually
so about
it was
12, 13.
Yeah, it was my freshman year of high school, and the seed's been planted since I was about like 13, 14. That real estate was probably something that I wanted to take a part in, and venture a little bit into, because it's obviously the industry that pumps out the most millionaires. It's just it's always something that people are going to need. It's a commodity. People are always going to need a roof to live under. So it's kind of something that's just not going to go away, right? So, it makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And okay, so then you that seed was planted, and then what did you do to go from interest to like actually doing something? Like how did you come to that decision, or what did that look like to put it into action?
Yeah, so that's actually a good question. So the way that I actually put it into motion and actually moving towards achieving that goal of becoming an agent was I just started taking my courses. I remember one summer day in 2023, I was like, man, like I'm in school, I work a laborer's job, I work at Panda Express, I got cuts all over my arm and whatnot, so I was like, man, like there has to be something better than this, and something that I can make more money with, to achieve the life that I want to achieve. So I was like, let me pick back up on real estate and actually do it. So I started taking my courses and whatnot. But then I went to Mexico. So that was like a whole year later at that point. So in 2024, and I went to Mexico, and I was just getting ready to submit all my paperwork and stuff, and then boom, just fell out of it. And then fortunately enough, I have some good friends that like to play poker. So one of them hit me up one day and was like, hey, like, let's go play a game, And I was like, sure, man, So that's where I met Dan the Man over here. And, ever since then, it was just like everything lined up perfectly. Boom, boom, boom. Dan happened to be one of the best brokers here in Merced. So I was like, man, let's check it out. Let's see what he's got to offer. So, we had that talk, and then, one thing led to another, and I actually submitted my paperwork, took my test, and passed it. And now I'm a agent, a commercial agent. So here we are.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I didn't know exactly what had happened, but it sounds like, and when you say you were in school, you'd already graduated high school and you were in college?
Yeah, okay. I was already in college, so I was like, I already was like, man, I need to start hustling more. I felt like I just wasn't doing enough.
And did you just Google online, or how did you find the courses?
Yeah, so I just watched a YouTube video. Actually, I was on my break at school. I vividly remembered this now. It just came back into my head. I was actually on my break at school, and I remember I was in the bathroom, and I was actually watching a video on the best courses to take. And that's where I found this course, Calibri Real Estate. And I was like, oh man, it was only $100. I was like, you know what? Worst things worse, I lose $100, or I get a license that could make me a lot more money, right?
That's pretty cool.
So I was like, I was already gambling, so I was like, man, $100 to maybe change the trajectory of my life. I was like, I'll take it, take that risk.
Yeah, that sounds like it could be a good payoff.
Yeah.
All right, so you're in school, you're thinking, okay, well, why not?
Yeah.
You pull the trigger, you take the courses, and then I think, so who was the friend that invited you to come play?
Shout out to Ryan Lee. If you're watching this, that's the boy, Ryan Lee. Yeah, we've been tapped in for a while now, since high school. It's been my boy. I'm going to miss him, leaving a sack soon. So, yeah, shout out to Ryan Lee.
Man, that's cool. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I've known Ryan literally since before he was born. His family and my family are really good friends.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty cool to hear that he was the one that brought you in. And then I think I remember we had been playing cards. I love to play cards, so I have a weekly game that we play. And I think what kind of made me notice you and some of the things you were talking about was I think once there was a big tournament. My neighbor Tony has a tournament occasionally, and you won. I think you came in third or top three.
Yeah.
And you ended up winning part of this tournament. And then I asked you the next time I saw you, I was like, hey, what, are you going on a trip or what are you gonna do? And you're like, I'm investing that money. And I was like, you're investing that money? Like, most people your age are not talking about investing. And then I think maybe that time or later, you were telling me that you were taking your real estate courses. And then one time we were playing, sitting next to each other, and we just started having a real estate conversation. And then the next day I thought about it, and I was like, I should probably talk to Arturo about working together. Yeah. And then I know your license, you just got licensed. How many months has it been now?
So it's been about, I think today's actually, I think, the second month I've been licensed. So since May, yeah.
Like exactly 2 months? Or pretty close?
Tomorrow, May 12th.
Tomorrow.
Yes,
got it. Okay. So it's been 2 months. And then, so the thought was, hey, I'm going to get my license. I'm going to take these courses, get my license. I'm going to be a real estate agent. And then, what did you think would happen, and kind of what's been your experience? Is it exactly like what you thought it would be? Is it different? Like, what are you seeing?
So you would think like, oh, like, it wouldn't be that hard to review a few papers. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was. So I'd actually finished up everything that I needed to finish up by February, submitted everything, whatnot, paid the money. A lot of money, actually. It's pretty expensive to get into real estate.
Yeah.
But like I said, there's a ROI there. Like eventually, it'll all pay off in the long run. But besides that, I mean, it was kind of a hassle to go through the DRE. I'm not gonna lie. They take a very, very long time to do their jobs. I mean, I can understand. I mean, California is probably one of the most real estate, populous states in all of the U.S. I mean, the real estate here is millions of dollars, or median $500,000. So there's a big demand for agents and things of that. So I mean I could see they probably have a lot of submissions that they have to go through. But man, it was I was like, oh man, I was refreshing every other day. Man, have they accepted it? Have they accepted it? Have they accepted it? And nada. I was like, man, this is bad. And then eventually, one faithful day in April, I think, so about 2 months after I had submitted the original paperwork, it was finally like accepted. And I was like, yes. And then it was like schedule a test, and then the next one was until like another 2 weeks. So I was like, oh man, whatever, I'll do that. And then I finally got to that point where I took it on May 12th, or I believe something like around there. And I passed it first try. And honestly, I'll be real honest to the cameras, I honestly studied maybe a little bit of it, but I had already been, kind of doing it for so long and pushing it back that I think everything just kind of stayed in my mind, and I was able to pass it with relative ease. Honestly, it was a pretty cool experience. I was honestly shocked and excited at the same time. I was like, wow, I really passed this test. That's great. I was ready to get to work, and now we're here recording a podcast, which is awesome. I love this job. How many other jobs where you could record a podcast, record videos of yourself advertising a property, meet a bunch of different cool business owners and people? There's not many jobs like that. And honestly, I think that's one of the greatest things for me, because I love being social, and I love talking to people, and I love meeting new people. So it's kind of like all the good in one, and then you get to make some money on top of it, helping these people, So it's all great. It's a great thing.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I've seen you kind of grow along the way, and when you talk about the California licensing process, there's definitely room for improvement in that process. So I get, like, it's not lost that it can be frustrating just waiting and being patient, working through that process. And you're like, man, I just want to get started. And then you finally get licensed, and you're like, all right, let's go. Now I can actually get to work and put deals together. And then that takes time, to figure everything out. And so, but it's great to hear you're having fun. And I think that from my perspective, it's been really great to see you, and then right behind you, because you said, when was your license date?
So the day I got licensed was May 12th.
May 12th. May 12th. Okay. So you showed up. Well, I mean, you showed up before that, but you got licensed on May 12th, and then next month, June, Daniel activated his license and popped up, and then July, Josiah, another new agent, just got his license and popped up. And you guys, we've been working together for months and months, even before getting licensed, with training and coaching. But it's been great to have you guys here, and the energy that comes from having young men that are in their early 20s, and we enjoy having you guys here, and it's good to hear that you're having fun. And so maybe talk about what's been your experience, in those couple of months, specifically with your real estate deals and prospecting, and then also what's next. Like, where do you see yourself a year from now?
That's a great question. So honestly, the first few months of commercial real estate, at least since I've been here, it's not easy. It's not an easy job. It's not for everyone. I would say that it was pretty challenging to, get out of my comfort zone and go up to businesses and, talk to them and, talk to business owners who may be more experienced than you in their own field, obviously. And, you're trying to convey something to them that they might already know or something like that. It's tough. It wasn't easy to get out there. Even as a social person, there's always still that little, I'm kind of scared to go out there and, approach them with this pitch or something. Yeah. But, definitely over these past few months, I've seen myself grow in confidence and, the ability to speak to people on the subject that, I'm supposed to be an expert in. So, obviously being able to convey ideas or, things to them has gotten a lot easier since I've learned a lot more, thanks to, my mentor, Dan, over here. I've learned a lot more. So, it's crazy. Like, if you would have asked me what a LOI was 5 months ago, I'd be like, what? LOI? I'd be like, what is that? Or, a bunch of other little things like lease terms, or I don't know, like a bunch of other things, tenants, whatever. The vocabulary, it's its own vocabulary, it's its own universe. I would have never known anything about that. And, like the fact that railroads being next to a building is a big deal, especially if that building needs those railroads. And, there's a lot. So I would say expertise wise, I definitely came a long way. And deals wise, the other agent, my man Daniel over here, and we got a few deals pending, working. It's great to see that pipeline get built up.
Yeah, as you're talking, I'm thinking about like when you guys because when you first get started, it's like, yeah, you're licensed and you're in this study mode, and you're like, hey, I just gotta, I gotta know how many square feet are in an acre, and there's all this book knowledge, and then you get your license, and you're like, all right, what do I do now? And I'm gonna take everything I learned from the books, and that's gonna be my job, and that's gonna help me, right? And it's like, no, like you don't really use, especially in our world, because all we do is sell and lease buildings, and it's my opinion, from reference for both the salesperson and broker exam, I think 90% of that, at least 80%, 80 to 90% of what you're learning is about residential real estate or real estate in general. And there's a very small portion that's about commercial real estate. And so then you get licensed, and it's like, all right, now I got to learn this new language, and what you're doing is a lot different than what you're doing when you're studying. And you're starting from zero, so it's like you don't have a sales funnel most of the time. At least that was the case for me. It was like, I don't have any clients to work with. Who do I work with? And then you mentioned you work in Panda. I used to work at AT&T. One of my roles was in a retail store, and in the retail store, I had to show up for work, clock in. People would just show up, and I would help them. And it was really helpful for me. I really learned and grew a lot when I was working there because I had conversation after conversation with people, and I would always try to, at the end of a conversation, look back and figure out, hey, what worked, what didn't work, and I was always trying to improve myself. But it's very different in real estate when you're in business for yourself. People don't just show up on your doorstep and are like, hey, I want to buy and sell my house. And so, the prospecting part, that is challenging for some people, trying to figure out or trying to find people to work with. And you guys have done a great job with, putting in the work to know what to say, and how to go talk to people, and around prospecting. And then I think another thing a lot of people struggle with is social media. With real estate, back in the old days, people would get a listing and they'd put up a sign and they'd put it on the MLS and wait for the phone to ring. And that was before the internet. Now the internet's here and all the attention is on mobile devices. And so I think most real estate agents know they should be creating content, but they're busy with clients or life, or maybe they don't know the technology. But you've really, taken the bull by the horns, and you've started to make these really cool videos. And I see you guys putting them together, and you guys are having a lot of fun creating the content. So what's been your experience with marketing and social media? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, if you don't evolve, you drown, right? With every big company, virtually any company that's successful, you always have to adapt to the changing times. And, I think that's a really good question, because, my experience with it has been pretty beneficial. It's been pretty, the fruits have bared a little bit, I've gotten a few clients off of my videos, so I think it's pretty good to, be able to pump out content, especially when most agents aren't, especially in the commercial real estate industry specifically, where, you don't see many videos that market, spaces or market themselves even. Or if it is, then it'll be something bland, just like a picture with their information on it, where, nowadays most people are only interested for about the first 3 seconds of a video, so you have to have something that keeps someone, hooked on and, watching the video to see what information you want to convey to them. And, back to what I was saying earlier with, like, if you don't evolve, you drown. Like, it's very true, like, most agents in this industry are usually been in it for a while already, so they get a little complacent, and they have their and there's no shade to them either, but they have their set client list, they have their reoccurring business, so for them it's like they see no need in pumping out social media content, which is understandable. But I mean, it comes to a time where eventually you're gonna have to evolve, and I think that's very true with AI too nowadays as well. If you're not using AI, then you're behind, right? Like, oh, AI, a lot of people have complaints about it, like, oh, it's replacing industries, it's gonna replace jobs and whatnot. But I mean, why fight it? Why go against it, and why not use it as a beneficial tool? To help you expand on the ideas that you already have, and maybe give you some different potential insights on things that you didn't have before. So I think social media has been a great tool to use to help get my outreach out there, and find potential listings or potential clients that are in need of help, and in other ways that you probably wouldn't have been able to get to them, right? Because where's the attention at nowadays? It's on social media, it's on the phone, it's on whatever it may be, but it's always on your phone. And I think the average screen time nowadays is about 6 hours, so there's only about 24 hours in a day, 12 hours of daylight. So if half your day is on your phone, then you're gonna see a lot of things. And if my content's one of the things you see, then that's something that's good, because it gets out there, and now you have an idea. If I need an agent, I need to sell this building, the first thing you're gonna think of is, wait, I saw this agent on my Instagram a few hours ago or a few days ago. It stays in your mind, it can stay relevant. And I think that's very important when going into this industry, is having a a set tool that you could use to get your outreach out there if it's not prospecting in person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, I agree. And you bring up a good point with AI. It's such a powerful tool, and it's something that we're using every day, and it really is the future of not just real estate, but just how people do business. And so, yeah, it's great that you're creating content and you're also leveraging AI. It's like a tool in your tool belt, and if you're going to stay competitive and you're going to stay relevant, you really have to lean into these tools. And it's also it's one of those things where it's like Stephen Covey talks about in his books being there being four quadrants, and one of those I think he breaks it down to important and urgent, important, not urgent, and then not important, urgent, not important, not urgent. And so, have you ever heard about that? Those four quadrants?
No. Yeah, I'm not familiar
I might have butchered it a little bit, or maybe not explained it in exactly the right way. But he talks about it's the some of the things it's easy to say no to, right? It's like if it's not important and not urgent, well, it's like you probably shouldn't be doing that. That might be like watching TV, playing video games, just stuff,
Yeah.
But it's those things that are important but not urgent. Those are the things that you should be doing, but there's no one holding a gun to your head or no immediate consequences if you don't do them, but they will catch up to you in the long run. And so, like social media, I think that's one of those things where it's like, I know I should be creating content.
Yeah.
I know I should be on social media, but I got 4 kids, I have work, I have deals, there's tenants, landlords, there's a lot of stuff happening. This morning I had a plan, and then I'm sitting in my car at G and Olive, and some lady smashes into the back of my car. And that really, that really, it messed up my day, or, not messed up my day, but it changed my day for sure. And some of the stuff that I was planning on doing, I didn't get done. And then, it's just another thing, and so yeah, it's great to hear that you have that mindset where it's like, even with life happening, with school, with work, with real estate, you're carving out time, you're creating content, you're leveraging AI in your business, and you're doing those things that are super important but not urgent, but you're making them urgent for you. And yeah, no, that's really cool to hear. All right, so as we wrap up, is there anything you want to? So for the people listening, what do you want to say to them? What's kind of your parting words and message, and what do you want to say to those people that are watching right now?
I guess my parting words would be, thank you for tuning in and listening to me talk about, these little ideas that I have, or, these mindset things that I have. I think it's been great. I want to say there is a difference between commercial and residential. That is something that's very important that people should know. Obviously, there's specialties for a reason. Commercial has its own rules and its own, things that you have to look out for compared to residential. So if you're ever thinking about, using an agent and you have commercial property, it's always best to go with the people that focus on commercial, right? Because we're obviously going to try to get the best results for you, or we are going to get the best results for you because that is what we do and that is our specialty. Residential, they have their own specialty, residential properties. So I think that's a big misconception some people have sometimes, is that agents can do it all. I mean, you have those residential agents, but, is maybe not the best sometimes. They have their focuses in different areas, whereas we have ours in one area, and I think that's a great thing for any business owners or owners that have buildings. It's a no-brainer at that point.
Yeah, you're gonna get me on my soapbox here. I completely, yeah, and I agree. Well said. I think it's like apples and oranges. You know,
Yeah.
they're two different worlds, commercial and residential. The forms are different, the financing's different, the clients are different, the training, the expertise, all that is very, very different. And I know a lot of residential agents and brokers who have built these great residential businesses. So if I get an opportunity, I send it their way. We don't sell homes. We only sell buildings. It's just the reason why we do that is I don't believe that I could serve the needs of a client. If I'm trying to sell a home and 99% of what I do is commercial sales and leasing, it's kind of like going to, if you need brain surgery and you go to a foot doctor, it's like they both may be licensed, through the medical board, but what they do is very, very different. And so that's exactly how I think about that. Likewise, yeah. So anyways, don't get me started, Arturo.
That was a very good analogy, though. I like that analogy a lot.
Yeah, so well said there. And yeah, thank you for spending time here today. If people want to find you online, what are your handles and how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so Dealmaker Art on Instagram, right? That is my Instagram name, as well as my Facebook name as well. I'm on those two platforms. And then anything, feel free to reach out to me. My email is also arturo@delrealcre.com. You could always reach out to me if you have any inquiries about anything, or if you just have any general questions about real estate. I'd be more than happy to do my best to help you out.
Very cool. Yeah, and we'll make sure that we drop your contact info in the comments and or show notes. And yeah, I appreciate you coming on to have a conversation. And I'm looking forward to, we're working deals now. But yeah, I'm looking forward to working more and more deals with you, closing deals with you, watching you grow as a young business professional. And yeah, it's a pleasure working with you. And maybe you can come back on the show a little bit later.
Yeah, and it's a pleasure working here. It's a great environment. It's a great place to be at. It's just overall great. I'm glad to be on this show as well. Something that we've been talking about for a while now, and here we are now making it happen, getting it done, and it's great.
Yeah, so if you got questions for Arturo, make sure you hit him up about real estate deals, or maybe if you just want to know about his experience, get a hold of him, and we'll do it again soon. All right, thanks, man. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys soon.